Okay, teachers, welcome back to another segment of Classroom Management by Design for the primary teachers. If this is your first time finding us, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Lauren Zwiegen. I am the founder of Lesson Plan Toolbox, where we help primary teachers master their classroom management easily, consistently, and effectively. So every week we take a topic that is trending in education and we try to give you hands-on implementation strategies that you can use for your classroom. Inside our membership, we go even more specific to meeting our teachers' needs. Our whole premise is alleviating stress for primary teachers because you lay the foundation for education and all the things to come for your students' lives. We want to ease your jobs as much as possible. So let's get into this week's topic. As a primary teacher, you know that your words carry immense power. They shape how your students see themselves, how they interact with others, and how they view learning. When used intentionally, your words can build confidence. Your words can inspire curiosity. I love that word, inspiration. And your words can create a positive classroom culture. You set the tone for the culture of your classroom. But it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. And again, they don't teach us this in college. So today we're going to dive into the power of language in the classroom and give you some little secrets that can hopefully transform the way you speak to your students and how you speak to your students. So let's get started. I think we're giving you, let's say, seven to 9 tips. It kind of depends on how you break it apart. So the first one is know that your words build identity. Okay? The power of positive labels is astronomical. The labels we give students, it shapes their self-identity. And we do this all the time, sometimes without even knowing that we're doing this. If we consistently refer to some of our students as troublemakers, or, oh, the smart kids, or they're super quiet, they internalize these labels. And be mindful of the fact that even if you don't think they're hearing you say this, they often can just pick it up based on your energy. So you want to start labeling your students for their effort, their creativity, or their kindness instead of their intelligence or their behavior. You might say something like, "I love how persistent you are," rather than "you are so smart." Keep this in mind, okay? Research shows that labeling students based on effort rather than ability fosters the growth mindset. And you know, in this day and age, it's all about growth mindsets. This shifts students' focus from trying to be something to actually doing something well, which is just going to be a ripple effect into boosting their confidence, into helping them behave better in your classroom, okay? When students hear that positive growth-oriented labels, they start to see themselves in this whole new light. What is that going to do? It's going to boost their motivation and their self-esteem. It's as simple as that. And you control this in simply the language you use, the power of your words. The next step, number 2, know that tone matters as much as the words themselves. Your tone of voice can change the meaning of your words like that. Even if the words themselves are kind, your tone has an impact. So you might be going, how does this work though? Like sometimes I do this and I know that it's happening, but I'm not aware of it. Here's what you need to do. You need to practice using a calm, even tone when giving praise and redirection, both ends of the spectrum. For example, you might say something like, "I need you to sit down," in the same tone that you would use to say, "Great job on your reading today." Do you see? My tone really didn't change. Both were firm, both were friendly, and both told the student what they needed to do. Your students are highly attuned to your tone, and they can sense your frustration or your anger, even in neutral words. They know it. It's a sixth sense within our students, and they don't teach you this in college. Maintaining a warm tone is going to signal safety and respect, even when addressing those challenging behaviors that happen in your classroom. Why does this help? It's kind of obvious. That consistent, kind tone, it helps to build trust, and it encourages your students to listen without feeling defensive. They're going to be more open to telling you what's going on and be more open to the redirection because you're maintaining that calm, even keel tone. Okay, so that's 2. Number 3 is the power of choice language. Using choice language gives students a sense of control and responsibility. It helps them to be mindful of their actions. And again, this is all about your language. Instead of you saying, "You need to stop talking," what you're going to do instead is you're going to try and say something along these lines. You have a choice. You can listen now, or we can talk about this later during our recess time. That's simple. Choice is up to the student. This language, it's reframing the command as a decision that the student is in control of. You didn't make that decision for them. Their actions make that decision for himself or herself. The power of choice language is that, or the significance of choice language is that it reduces power struggles because it places the responsibility and the accountability on the student. They will feel empowered to make decisions rather than being forced into compliance. And it avoids that whole power struggle in the classroom, which so many teachers get frustrated with, and that's when things start to escalate. Put the onus on the student, let them make the choice, but tell them their choices have consequences. It's that simple. When students feel they have the control, they are far more likely to cooperate, and this is going to help their decision-making skills. Are they always going to make the right decision? No, but that's the whole point of being in school, right? They make the choice. They need to understand that their choices have consequences. That doesn't always happen in this day and age, and that's where things can get tricky for us, but we have to be firm and consistent with following through. Okay? So number 4 is narrative framing. We want to turn problems into opportunities. The way you frame a situation can 100% turn a challenging situation into a learning moment. Instead of saying something like, "You're being disruptive," you can very easily flip your language and say something like, "This is a great chance for us to practice being good listeners." Boom. What is this doing? This shifts that focus from the problem to the solution. And it's inviting your students to rise to the occasion, to rise to your expectations, which hopefully you're covering expectations every day using those student behavior scenario of the day cards if you're inside our community. 5 minutes a day can completely reshape your classroom management. Let's get back on track though. Framing challenges positively, it triggers a student's intrinsic motivation. They are far more likely to engage with the problem-solving process when it's presented as a growth opportunity, as opposed to the negative, right? You did this, now you're going to be in trouble. Take a second, try to reframe the situation, try to present it as this opportunity for growth. Here's my expectation, I know you can meet it. This approach, it fosters that classroom culture of learning rather than punishment. also going to encourage your students to see mistakes as opportunities, which is exactly what you want. And I am not saying do not give consequences for certain choices that they make. However, try to reframe as best you can if a situation warrants it. Okay? Number 5 is the magic of specific praise. You probably know this one. This can be a tricky one. This many years in education, I still do this. General praise, like saying, "Oh, good job." It's nice. Students like to hear it. But if you can give specific praise, it is so much more impactful. So instead of saying something like "great work," you would say something like, "I noticed you worked really hard on staying focused during reading time today. That is so impressive to me." Do you see the difference? This specificity, I hope I said that right, helps your students to understand exactly what they did well. And if you look at research and studies, you're going to see that by giving specific praise, it strengthens the neural pathways associated with learning. And what is that going to do? It is going to reinforce the behavior you want to see repeated, because your students know exactly what they did right, exactly what expectations you want them to meet. It's that simple. But this all, again, it's all about the language you use. And this one's tricky because although you want to give that specific feedback, finding time and being mindful of it, you kind of have to be aware of it in the moment, okay? But know that specific praise, it builds a student's confidence in their abilities, and it helps them to know what to continue doing in the future, meeting your expectations. I love that one. It's easy to do once you build the habit of doing it. Go beyond the good job or great work. Be specific. This next one I love too. Use yet, the power of yet, to unlock potential. I teach this to teachers all the time. Adding the word yet to a student's struggles creates a powerful sense of potential. When a student says, "I can't do this," and it could be anything from reading to math to tying shoes, you are going to respond with, "You can't do this yet." This simple 3-letter word reframes the situation from a fixed limitation to a temporary challenge. You might not be able to do this now, but we're going to keep working on this, and you're going to get it. You can't do this yet. We're going to get there. That word yet, it activates, again, that growth mindset, helping your students see that they can develop their skills over time with effort and persistence. It's going to empower them and, again, put the onus on their actions on them. You can't do this yet. You have to work towards this. Using the word yet, it fosters that resilience, and it encourages your students to keep trying, even when they get frustrated, even when they get discouraged, even when they want to give up. And that's when you might look to athletes or famous people and give examples of, when they wanted to give up, but they didn't. They kept trying, and look at where they're at. Okay? So number 7 on our list is the pause and redirect technique. And if you watch my conflict resolutions, you know the power of pause, how great it is. Pausing before responding to a negative behavior can make your words more impactful. So often we want to fire away our first thoughts. We're going to reframe that. We're going to change this habit, and we're going to pause first. When you notice a student is misbehaving, pause. Give yourself 3 to 5 seconds before speaking. Why are you going to do this? Because this gives you that moment to collect your thoughts and to choose your words that will de-escalate rather than escalate the situation. Again, your words bring so much to your classroom culture. and create so much of the energy in your classroom. When you have that well-timed pause, 3, 5, 10 seconds, it creates a sense of importance around what you're about to say, which gives you that authority in the classroom, and you are the authority in your classroom. It also helps students to calm down because they see that you are calm and composed. You're not overreacting. Again, this isn't always easy. You have to practice this, but this is quite possible. The pause shows your students that you are thoughtful, you are being intentional in your response, and this is going to lead them to mirror that calmness in the classroom, which is exactly what you want. You lead by example. Okay, so we are already up to number 8 on our list, which is ask instead of tell. So this one, it definitely depends on the situation. If safety is involved, you're definitely telling them what to do. But if you can, asking students to reflect on their behavior often leads to better outcomes. This is opposed to telling them what they did wrong. And if you follow the 4 questions, what are you doing? What were you supposed to be doing? Were you doing it? What are you going to do now? It does just that. So instead of saying something like, stop interrupting, you're going to try saying, why do you think it's important to let others finish speaking? This frame of words, it's going to invite your students to think about their behavior and then arrive at the answer themselves. It becomes intrinsic. You're not telling them, they're formulating their thoughts and learning this on their own. So when students articulate why a behavior is problematic, they're more likely to internalize the lesson, which is going to change their actions in the future. It's going to just create them to be successful members of this classroom community. Asking questions encourages self-reflection. It is going to make your students feel respected, which is going to lead to more lasting behavioral changes in your classroom. Less misbehavior, more positive behavior. It's exactly what we're aiming for. Okay, now we are up to number 9. This is another tricky one. We're going to turn criticism into curiosity. And you're probably going, how in the world do we do that? So instead of using critical language when a student makes a mistake, here's what you're going to do instead. You are going to turn it into a moment of curiosity. And you're probably going to kind of knock them out of their socks because they're going to expect you to react one way and you're going to go a whole other way. When a student doesn't complete a task, avoid saying, why didn't you do this? Why haven't you started this? Instead, say something like this. I wonder what could have helped you finish this work. Let's figure it out together. What happened there? There was the shift. The shift focuses from blame to problem solving. The work isn't done. But now we're going to figure out, well, what could have happened to get the work done? And you're going to help me do this. Curiosity-based language, again, it fosters that sense of collaboration between the teacher and the student. They know that they have a part in this relationship and in their education, in their learning. This makes the student more open to feedback. And it also puts you in a place to foster that relationship, to build that rapport. Using this approach, it reduces defensiveness and it invites students into a dialogue, creating, again, just that stronger teacher-student relationship that everyone strives for. You hear it all the time. Relationships, relationships, relationships. Your words, your actions, you don't have to buy them stuff. Your words and actions have just as much of impact as buying them stuff. Okay, we're going to give you a bonus strategy because why would we leave this one off? Use we language to build community. This is your bonus one. Using we instead of you, it fosters a sense of belonging and shared responsibility in the classroom. We all work together. And I tell students this all the time. You can get rewarded as a class, and we have consequences as a class because we have to function as a family unit in here. So instead of saying you need to be quiet, say something along these lines. We need to bring our voices down so we can all focus. Using this language creates that sense of a collective. It creates that sense of unity. Okay? Using we language, it taps into the human need for connection and cooperation. And in 2024, or I should say in this day and age, this is what our students need the most. It shifts responsibility from the individual to the group. And guess what's going to happen? Guess what your result is more than likely going to be? Better compliance and just a more solid behavior classroom management within your four walls. Pretty magical. When you use, again, the language of the we, the collective, it makes your students feel they are a part of this team working together towards common goals, which they are. Just using that word we. It's not just about you. And with our age groups, they can still be very egocentric. So we have to teach them that their actions impact this community. And this could be the first time in their lives that they're understanding what this means. So just using that two-letter word, we. So as we wind this down, know that the words you choose as a teacher can either lift your students up or unintentionally hold them back, bring them down. Hopefully you can take these strategies and implement them. Use specific praise, the power of yet, and choice language. Cultivate that classroom where your students feel empowered and they feel motivated and ready to learn, because every single word you speak matters. You know as well as I do, they go home and tell their parents pretty much everything. Some of it's true and some of it's not so true. So be mindful of that. When spoken with intention, your words become the most powerful tool for shaping the minds and hearts of your students, and it's that simple. If you have not read the book, The Power of Our Words, I cannot remember the author, Google it. Such a great book. We read it in our book club group. Highly recommend every primary teacher especially to read it, because it really gets into how to rephrase specific tasks that we give our students. So, again, do not feel you have to implement all 10 of these strategies. Everybody is different. You know, if you've taken our unique teaching style quiz, you have a unique teaching style. Knowing that style is important, and some of these strategies are going to meet those needs. Some of them might just sound fun and you want to experiment with them. Take them, use them, share it with a teacher friend who you think could also benefit from this. Thank you so much for being here. We will be back again next week. And next week we're going to start probably a little mini series. I don't think we can cover it all in 1 week, on the power of silence and teaching our students that being still, being silent is just as important and just as healthy for us as eating our fruits and vegetables and knowing how to read and knowing how to do our basic math. So that's where we're headed. We're going to kind of dive deep with the power of silence, the power of being still, and how that really grows and develops our minds and, believe it or not, our academic performance. So until next week, we will see you soon.